Hi guys, so we're going to tie another Bann Valley fly tying pack, and this time it is a Claret Dabbler. So a Claret Dabbler is, I suppose, one of the best known Irish loch flies there is. It would have been invented by Mr. McLaren, well, sometime in the 80s I would imagine. So what have we got? We have our instructions, picture of the fly as it's meant to be, and with most of these things the tail tends to be cock pheasant, so we have a section of cock pheasant tail here. We obviously have our hooks to tie it on, so here we have a packet of size 10 wet fly hooks. Gold oval tinsel for the rib. We have some claret dubbing for the body. We have a claret hackles to hammer with, and then what makes a dabbler, bronze mallard for the wings. So I'm going to tie this with black tying thread. I'm just going to wax that up a bit to start us. Start just behind the eye. As you'll see, I tend to hold up the tag end. Then my wraps tend to slide down on it, and that helps them to get neater, closer together. Trim that off the rear. So we take our cock pheasant tail, what you want to do is just take a bunch from the side, either side. I pull them down. I tend to pull them out like this from the stalk. What that'll do is it'll sort of level up the tips of them, and then pinch it hard and rip this off. And that gives us a bunch of half a dozen or so fibres. Then we'll set them up. So what you want to do is get about at least the length of the body. Some people prefer a much longer tail, but generally at least the length. Of the fly of the hook. And I'll tie that down. I rip it off, you can cut it off if it's easier for you. And I'm going to take my rib, so I've got a bit of gold oval tinsel here. Tie that in. So what I'll do is I'll tie it in on the far side and tie it back until it gets to the same tie-in point as the tail. The reason for that is then the first wrap tends to come round much neater than if you try and put it on the near side. So we're going to dub the body. We're going to open up our dubbing, claret dubbing. It's like a wine magenta sort of a claret. I'm just going to put a bit of wax onto my thread. That'll help the fibres stick to it. And then I pull out a small little pinch of that. Spread it down my tying thread, and I start to spin it. Once I get a couple of fibres of it caught with a couple of wraps, I can then spin it up tighter. And then I take this forward. But I leave enough room to create or a head and have a little bit of a turn to a hackle up there. So now we'll open up our hackles. So we have a bunch of hackles here. And if you look at them, you'll see somebody has checked them for size. So I'll take a hackle. What I want to do is strip off a section at the base here. And we're going to tie in across that. Then trim that off. And now I need my hackle pliers. And we're going to take this down the body. So we're going to palmer the body with it. So what I'll do is I'll get a couple of turns at the front. So that creates like a full hackle collar for me at the front. And then I will start to wrap down the body. Number of turns down the body is up to yourself. It depends how bushy you want your fly to be. I've gone down it there in about 3-4 turns. So then I take my gold oval under between the point of the hook and the rear of the fly. Over that last turn. Hackle, and then I'm going to take it up the body, hopefully in relatively even turns. Generally you're going to talk 4 to 5 turns at the front here. I tie it in, I'll fold it back, pull everything back and sort of bind over that to create a solid tie-in and a basis for our wing. So then trim off the hackle at the rear here as well. We're ready to put our wing on. So let's look for a bronze mallard feather. So we take a bronze mallard feather. What I'll do is I'll get rid of the non-usable parts, you can say. So we want the bits that are bronze, that have the brown tips on them. And dabblers, there's different sort of preferences as to where you have it. Some people will have it just on the top. It's not like a standard wet fly wing. It's supposed to cloak the fly. Some people like it to be 360, and some people like it more to be on top. But what we do is we take the feather and then just stroke the fibers until they're perpendicular to the stalk, then pinch it and rip that off. If you want it heavier, what you can do is you can take 2 bunches like that and place them one on top of the other. So we have like a sandwich. We've got 2 thicknesses of bronze mallard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that up. Lengthwise, you want it at least the length of the bend. Probably going a bit beyond it. You know, in some cases, you know, you can end up with it going right back here near to the full length of the tail. But I'm going to go about halfway or so. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to set it up on top. Then I'll take my finger and thumb from my left hand and squeeze it around the fly. Then I take my thread in like a pinched loop around that, and then I start to bind onto it. And what I'll do then is I'll just roughen that up. And as you can see, we now have a cloak. We have mallard the whole way around. So, where are my sharp scissors? Hopefully you're sharp. So what I'll do now is just to start to trim off the waste ends. Of the mallet. Trying to do it a few fibres at a time here, because if you just cut it off as one big whack, it'll leave some bits a bit longer than others. It's not just as neat. So, wax up my thread, create a head, and then I'll put on a couple of hitches. If you use a whip finishing tool, then use that. And then what I like to do is to put on one coat of clear varnish and then go again, finishing into it. And I feel that that makes 2 layers of varnish, one in the center of the head, one over the top of it. This to me is more secure. And then I will varnish the head again. And then I'll just take a remains of a hackle and just pass it through the eye of the hook, just to make sure there's no varnish clouding the eye. So that is our Bann Claret Dabbler.